get to ask you this because you weren't in on our first video, but what did you think of the look of Victor Ben Gibbon / Count Potofu in the first episode?
I would really like to know whose idea that was, whether or not Thayer David had some input on that, because he was such a chameleon of an actor anyway. He may have had some input on that, but I thought it was really cool because he looks so strange in many ways, so different from a lot of these, but at the same time, he still fits in. The clothing and everything is, he's a gentleman of means, blah, blah, blah. But the big hair and the weird beard and the thick glasses and all of that sort of thing that sort of make him look, oh, this guy is from another world, it's kind of like that. So it was all brilliantly done, I thought. I thought it was good indication of his sort of supernatural element.
Yeah, our mutual friend Patrick McRae told me that it was Thayer David's idea. He thinks it was Thayer David's idea.
Yeah. See, I would not be surprised if he had a lot to do with it, because he was a chameleon, and I think Vinny probably would have welcomed a little creative suggestion from the actors as well, because Vinny was an actor himself, so he would have understood that, I think.
I'll tell you what, too. The multiple, we see some vampires. We see Dirk Wilkins as a vampire before this, obviously.
Yes.
What did you think of Dirk Wilkins as a vampire?
I thought Dirk Wilkins was definitely one of. Aside from Peter Bradford, I thought it was one of Roger Davis's best roles. I thought it was a better, Jeff Clark was, everybody talks about how sort of overwrought Jeff Clark could be. It was kind of written that way, to be fair to Roger. But yeah, that's true. And I think Dirk was sort of this character that got involved. He was kind of on the periphery, but he got involved in some of the secrets of Collinwood, Crazy Jenny and all of that sort of thing. He was briefly a rival for Beth's affections with Quentin, that whole thing early on. But once he was manipulated by the supernatural forces, which began with Laura, having him possessed by some Egyptian spirit to bring her back to, full strength and all that. That was interesting. And that I thought that brought him into a place. They didn't leave him a pawn very long. Once he became a vampire, he was an independent threat. He had the power at that point and used it well. And I thought, even though he was only briefly a vampire, he was creative about it and impactful. I thought it was one of the more impactful reigns of terror that the secondary vampires had. Obviously, Tom Jennings is also a favorite, but he did a really good job as the vampire, Dirk Wilkins, I thought.
Yeah, he's really menacing when he goes from just being a Laura lackey to, okay, I want her back, and I will kill to get her back.
Yeah, he's still obsessed by her as a vampire.
Yeah.
But he's also got all this other stuff going on. He's not this hapless servant anymore. So,
do you think he's completely become psychotic?
He is, yeah, I think so, and I think that's part of the appeal, because he becomes an action villain, not an action hero, but an action villain. Because in the short time he's a vampire, I mean, he attacks like 3 or 4 people. He tries to make a deal with Barnabas. All of this stuff. He affects the future storyline by, causing the death of Rachel, and he affects the trajectory of Tim Shaw's character because of the death of Rachel. I think is one of the factors that makes him cynical. Yeah. And then later, of course, he discovers the hand and he runs off with it for a while and becomes very wealthy thanks to the hand. But he's very cynical. He's not the same guy he was before all of that happened.
No, he was just a loyal servant to the Collins family.
Right, and so between Dirk Wilkins and The Hand, that's the influence that changes his character's trajectory.
Yeah, it's really.
I was glad to see that his character didn't come to a bad end. Eventually he sort of, made good in some ways. So we won't talk about that yet in case we'll go to those episodes later. So, yeah.
Well, Dirk Wilkins, he gets, I think, staked, but
he does. He's only really running around attacking people for about a week and a half, 2 weeks maybe maximum.
Tim Shaw is an interesting character, and I do think outside of like Peter Bradford, I know they're doing the whole Dorian Gray thing with the painting. But Charles Delaware Tate, I really thought was his most interesting character.
It is interesting. It is. The fact that he gets to play two characters in the same time too is kind of cool. You know.
And it was nice to see him come back and do that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes with characters, when they get killed off on a show,
they don't come back, right?
Yeah. You might not see them either for a long while. Like I know we don't see Humpert, I think, until 1840 for a long, 1970.
But he was only there briefly in 1970. He was only there for a couple of weeks, and then they killed him off or sent him back to hell, whatever you want to call it. And then you don't see him again until 1840 for quite some time. You're right.
Yeah. It's crazy how like you're not expecting to maybe see somebody that boop. There's the actor he would. It's like, all right, great.
With Humbert, I think it was widely his abilities were widely appreciated among the directors and the writers in particular. I mean, they actually, when he auditioned for another role completely, which in the interview with Patrick, he couldn't remember what the role was, but they wrote the character of Nicholas for him. Yeah. They didn't give him the role he was auditioning for, but they said, this guy is good. We can't waste him. We got to bring him in. So they did. They created Nicholas. So that was completely created off of an audition he did for another character, which is a real testament to his acting ability.
Yeah. I wonder if he auditioned for the doctor role.
I doubt it. I think they probably plugged him into that. I think they probably just plugged him into that. The same thing with Paul Michael playing the fisherman and some of the other smaller roles. They just called him in and said, "Hey, we got something for you here." I'm sure of that.
It was even though he's not in the movie Law, those guys, it's like it's nice to see him.
Yeah, that's the whole. I think that was part of the point, but also they already knew they could act. They already knew they could do stuff, so they didn't have to audition them for it. They could,
Yeah. Who's the character you would have loved to have seen or an actor you would have loved to see in House of Dark Shadows?
Interesting. I'm trying to think of like a horror icon, an American horror icon.
Yeah.
I mean, there are several British horror icons that might have worked. Yeah. But an American horror icon probably would have fit better in the mold of that particular movie, even though it was kind of a Hammer style movie.
Yeah.
Because everybody else was essentially American. So that's tough. That's really tough. Somebody actually that didn't do a lot of horror, but did some, and that was Dean Stockwell.
Yeah.
Would have been kind of cool to be in this kind of a movie.
Yeah.
As some ancillary Collins character or something. Would have been cool. But in terms of the British ones, obviously, the Christopher Lees and those guys would have probably fit pretty well as some kind of character in House of Dark Shadows, being that it was that kind of movie. It really was. It was that their style of movie in a lot of ways. That's why I like like House of Dark Shadows as a standalone. I don't like it as an extension of Dark Shadows.
Yeah,
I have this duality about that film.
I've had many discussions about the movie on this channel.
Yeah.
And somebody's like, "Do you like the movie?" I said, "Yeah. Look, it's not canon to the series."
No.
I said it's a really fun vampire movie.
It is.
You know,
standing alone by itself, it's that Hammer horror stuff. It's really cool. It feels like fall in New England, which even though it was spring in New England when they filmed it, it feels like fall in New England, which is when it got its widest release.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good on those terms. I have no problem with it, but I don't like it as an extension of Dark Shadows, the TV series.
I think Dan just shot it like a fall film in every way.
Yeah, it's got that autumnal feel to it for sure.
Oh yeah, favorite Alex Stevens stunt? You got one?
I do. It's the attack on Joe Haskell.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. I mean, he choreographed it with Joel Crothers, and Crothers was game to do all the stunt stuff because they had a full fight. I mean, it was a full-on fight. It was one of the better stunts on the show, no doubt.
My first ever watch through for Dark Shadows on the Sci-Fi Channel. I'm sitting in my chair in my upstairs in my parents' house. I'm drinking coffee, watching fucking DS, and I'm watching the Blue Whale, and I'm not expecting nothing to happen.
Through the window.
And he comes through the fucking window.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit. I'm choking on coffee.
See, that was a good one too, but that was just the window stunt. Then you didn't see anything else. With the one at Maggie's cottage, Evan's cottage, you saw the whole fight. I mean,
you saw the whole deal there.
Yeah.
But that's the cool thing. Like Alex Stevens did a hell of a job doing the stunt work for DS.
Yeah, I mean, he was a veteran stunt performer before he even had that role. He was Frank Sinatra's stunt double on a couple of movies. He did a bunch of stuff otherwise, and he did stunt work on House of Dark Shadows too, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I think he did a couple of stunts on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he also did. He stunt doubled for Kaveda Humphrey when she fell down the stairs as Madam Finlay.
Oh wow,
that's him in a wig and a dress.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty gutsy move. So my all-time favorite is definitely the Joe Haskell fight, just because you get to see so much of him doing what he does best.
Yeah, Alex Stevens was the man for sure.
Yep.
The Hand of Petofi, it's a character in its own.
Absolutely. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, everybody is influenced by its presence.
Yeah.
One way or another.
Where do you think the Count is? Like, if they picked up Dark Shadows, like from today, where is the Count and where is the Hand? They together or no?
Oh, I think for a good dramatic introduction, he's looking for the Hand again. He's somehow lost it, and he's come back heavily disguised because of his mage-like powers. He understands that Barnabas is still around, that Quentin is still around. Of course, he would know that because of the portrait coming into modern times. And infiltrating Collinsport and Collinwood once again, perhaps as another character, at first before, and being revealed as Petofi at some point. And in this way, he could be played by another actor too. He wouldn't have to be played, obviously, by somebody that looked like Thayer David, but could be played by a completely different actor because of his powers. That he regenerated or something before he lost his hand. You could have all sorts of things going on like that. So Yeah, I would have him come back heavily disguised, and then gradually people figure out who he is.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Hey, is there anything you want to add before we go?
No, it's a great episode, though. Again, it's one of those. There's a whole series of these in various storylines during 1897, where everything sort of begets something else that's going to happen, within the next few episodes or whatever. Yeah. The whole thing with Julianka has yet to play itself out, but when it does, oh boy, that causes a lot of chain reactions to occur.
Because when she has every intention of getting the hell out of Dodge.
Oh yeah, I mean, but of course the tragedy is once she comes under Barnabas's spell, she is going to try to cure Quentin.
Yep.
She is definitely going to try that. So,
and it's not going to happen.
Not going to work.
Yeah.
No,
it's not. Oh man. Link to link to Alan Gallant's YouTube channel. Collins Sport After Dark is going to be in the description box. Go give him a sub. Go check him out if you haven't already. Man, thank you, Alan. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Have a great night.